Bow 3 is one of the longest and most complicated forms in our entire curriculum, so I'm going to break it down slowly. This is a breakdown video. If you're just looking for a reference, look for the other Bow 3 video. It's generally the same, but I'm going to break down each piece and explain a little bit more of what's going on. Because this is a black belt form, I may skip over some of the smaller details because it is a form that everyone should know, and you can use your points of reference from every other form, as you should always do. The opening move, and actually what goes on with this form that makes it so complicated is there are so many parts of it that are difficult. So you have references from earlier forms, but there's a lot of things that are very specific to this form. But the better you know the first 4 forms, the easier this form will be when you get to black belt. It starts off with the bow in front here, so sometimes I will start like combat bow, bring it to center, but essentially we've learned it as a starting point where the bow is on center, hands are here, and it starts with that Kempo bow with the 1-2 step, crossing out with both hands extending to the side, and I'm going to push down. Now all that's going to happen here is I'm unwinding my wrist. So my wrist is currently on the outside, my hand is on the outside. When I push it through, my hand ends up on the inside and the bow's on the outside. So that opening part, when I separate, I push down, then I'm going to grab and flip the left, step back, and it's a reverse punch, followed by another reverse punch, and one more. Going forward, we parry before hooking on the first one, parry before hooking on the second one, and then as we step forward for our straight-in punch, or reverse punch at the end. Now that's our intro. So once we get into here, we're going to work on our 4 different positions. And it's not quite 4 corners. We're going to go to the back corners, but then we're going to go to the side walls, and a little bit of in between too. So what I start off with, and this is going to happen on both left and right, I'm in a reverse punch. I'm going to reverse and pull back on this side. As I scoop, I'm stepping through on that side, but only transitionally to be able to turn. Once I make the turn, I've got the double block from this side. Then I'm going to draw back on the same side and strike up. Now I'm going towards the wall. 1, 2. Let's demonstrate that again. So I'm in a reverse punch position. I'm going to scoop as I step forward with the opposite foot. Now the hand that scooped is up by my shoulder. I draw back to cat stance at 45, and both hands extend out. From there, I slide back to cat stance with the other foot, and I strike up. Then I'm going to scoop to that side, landing in a horse stance as I strike on my first one, draw the bow back, and strike. When I'm drawing on this side, this is the first time we've done this as a strike. One side is not moving, it's a stationary. So as I strike, this side is just here to hold. So one more time, and then I'll continue on. I make my punch, scoop, step, pivot, push up, draw back, strike up, turn towards the side wall. This should be the left side if I was facing to the front. And then I'm going to extend all the way back. This foot goes all the way back. Big transition as I pivot on my feet there. I'm blocking straight out to the side, scooping, landing on my first strike, drawing back with the second strike. Once you get comfortable with that, the other side is exactly the same. Thing is, we have to make sure we get back to that same position. So this is how the other side started, but it was over here. So when I did that at the end, I did the scoop towards the back left. Now I'm in the opposite position. So back to this, 1, 2, draw back, punch, scoop, step, pivot to cat, push it out, draw back, strike up, scoop, thrust, thrust, way back, pivot towards the front, scoop, landing in a horse stance, thrust, shuffle, step, thrust. Okay, so that's that second component of the form. Now we're going to go into a little jump skippy part here. Now even on those corners, there's a little bit more movement in here than we're used to in most of our forms. So we have this technique where I'm pulling the weight off of one foot and drawing down onto the other. So you can practice just doing this. I'm in a cat stance, kind of a longer Chinese style cat stance. I'm going to lift this foot up and draw back to the right. I'm going to lift my right and draw back to the left, landing softly on that side. So you'll notice here, once I've made my thrust, I'm going to lift off the left, 1, 2, strike. This is a low strike pulling down, kind of like in combat bow. Then I'm going to lift right, left, towards the front with my uppercut. This foot drops, and I shuffle forward, then left, right again, up, right, left again, up. Now my left foot goes forward from cat stance to here. Just to recap that again. So I finished up with my double thrust to the side. I've done my 4 corners, we'll call it. I'm going to lift the left, strike the lift right, then 1, 2, right, left, and now I'm coming up. Now normally I'd be in a left cat stance, I would move my left foot, but in this case it's one of those exceptions. I drop the left, push off to the right. Jump step again, 1, jump step again for 2. Now I'm going to flip, strike high. From here we're going into our back stepping, so I'm going to be, so far mostly face towards the front so you can see everything. I'm going to step back, 1, 2, those are both reverse punches, 3, 4, and that's an uppercut, both uppercuts. I pivot to the right, double thrust, so this is the same as before. Switch to the left, double thrust. Okay, so from that position, now it gets a little complicated. I'm also going to be turning around. So I'm going to demonstrate it first, and then I'll do it facing both directions. This hand comes around, and I pivot with the helicopter to the right as I step with the right. I step forward with the left foot, helicopter with the left. The next move, I step in, throwing the bow away from my body, and then I step back and catch. From there, I drop the bow around, 360, thumb down, turn the bow around, step across, draw the bow back, and step. As I step, I land and I make my block. From there, I kick, step, step behind again, make my block again, punch across my body, punch across, thrust. Flip the right, and there's the scoops. I bow, and that's the end. Now that's a lot at the end, so I'm going to go back and recap that step by step. So we left off with the 2 side ones before we made the turn. So what happens is I made the turn with my right foot, I step forward with my left foot, and then the next one is I'm going to be throwing the bow away from my body. For the sake of the camera, I'm going to face forward as you see that. So right, then left. Now if I drop the bow, it'll just be like everybody else does. It happens at times. So I'm going to try to keep my hand on the bow, but a few times, if you keep doing it over and over again, there's a chance that you'll drop it. Not a big deal. I step forward, I'm going to thrust. When I do that, I'm trying to catch as far towards the end of the bow as I can. When I do that, I'm going to throw this end away from my body. So I'm not trying to catch this side towards me, I'm throwing it away. If I just did that, then the bow would land away from me. At the same time, I lift it up so I can catch the opposite side. So again, forward, like you're striking somebody in the foot, and then get the bow back, trying to get it to land as vertical as possible. One more time. There we go. So as I do that, I also have the added difficulty of lifting up that leg and trying to maintain balance. So not only am I trying to catch the bow vertically, I'm also lifting and staying in that position while I do the next move. So if the inside of the bow or the small side is on the bottom, this rotates very nicely. Now I have nice big ceilings here in Mansfield. Campton is not as tall. So usually what I'll do is I'll lower my hand and then lift. What I'm doing there is I'm lifting the hand to lower the bow, lowering the hand. So I think of that the way a train wheel moves, and you see how it comes up and down. That way I'm not hitting the ceiling or hitting the floor. It takes a little bit of practice. So again, I've thrust, catch, circle, that's 360. So all that is bringing it around. Then my left hand comes to play. This hand goes thumb down. I lift it by flipping the other hand. This is where I'm going to get to step down. Now my hands are somewhat crossed here. I'm going to keep them crossed, and then as they uncross, my legs will cross over. I'm going to do that again, and then I'm going to turn around again. Out, catch, 360. I'll do it again, 360 like that. Then you're going to catch, then you're going to flip. This hand goes down, so the top hand goes down, and my arms are crossed. I'm going to step across and turn 90 degrees to the left. My arms are crossed. As I step over, my arms uncross, so the right hand is palm up, left hand is palm down. From there, side kick, step down, step behind, and now I'm going to parry across my body. So this is just a quick block leading to my unwinding of my feet, landing in a horse stance, punch across, flip, and hook. Draw and thrust. From there, my right hand flips, and I circle. I'm scooping in. This hand is not doing a whole lot right now. I'll explain this part again, but that's my finish. Obviously, I'm facing the wrong way because I started this technique going the other way. When I make my turn, 1, 2, throw, catch, circle, thumb down, flip the hand and the bow, step, drop the hand, cross the hands, uncross as you step, 1, 2, step behind, parry, punch across, strike, thrust, and then we finish. What's happening here is my bow is slightly off-centered, so I have a little bit less on the top, which means the outside is heavier, so some of the bow is doing the work. Now, when I do this form, normally I have both hands in there, but the reason I'm showing you with one is not to show off. It's actually easier, because the one hand can rotate around. The left hand is there to help guide. So if you're looking for speed, your hand can guide and help you pick up some of the pace there. But other than that, the right hand is doing all the work. Technically, you could switch hands because the bow isn't changing. And then it's finishing. Now, how many am I doing? Different story. I come through. 1, 2, 3, and around to finish. Okay? The only reason that matters is if you're doing it with a bunch of other people. If you're doing it at your own performance and it takes an extra spin or two, no big deal. I would suggest even in a crowd that you do more than that and you try to go a little faster, because that's the end of the form. It's pretty interesting and people are always excited to see the bow spinning like that. That is bow 3. It is a long form. Take your time with it. But you are a black belt now. You should be able to handle all the steps in there. That's bow 3. Thank you.